the Department of Biotechnology, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi.
So very good afternoon to all of you. So I'm not audible.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
To me, you are.
So I thank the organizers, especially Professor Ralu, for giving me this opportunity, inviting me here. So without wasting any further time, I would like to start my talk, which is basically Bifidobacterium longum, how it modulates your gut immune axis, specifically your regulatory B cells, T and A17 cell axis, and inhibits inflammatory bone loss and osteoporosis, and the mechanism of its action by IL. So before going, so I'm taking you off some, basically we have been talking about cancer, but this is something which is very less talked about in all of the international conferences or the domestic conferences also. So this is why I'm basically working on bone health. So this is very important to all of you because it's going to be 1 in 5 individuals, specifically men, and 1 in 3 will be affected with osteoporosis related fractures in the lifetime. So this is a huge economic burden. So why I'm talking about this is all because our skeleton is only formed once we are born and it supports us throughout our lives, and we only have it one, regardless of our age, nationality, gender, race, and anything which we can take granted for. So that's why it's very important. And now coming to the bone health, why I'm working on osteoporosis? So because it is a silent killer, you will never know it unless and until you will have a fracture. So it's chronic bone disease, and if you see the prevalence of osteoporosis, you can see that more than 200 million people are already suffering from osteoporosis, and this is the data from other countries where we are not listed there because we are the most populous country in the world now. So the data will be, I think, a double or triple of this because every 7th individual on this world is an Indian, and we have been taken the data from the Indian perspective because we don't have the data. So there is almost one fracture occurring every 3 seconds. And if you see that in India also, because we have a lot of people who are going towards aging and the population is going up, and we have almost 25 to 60% of the Indian postmenopausal women which are going to be affected with osteoporosis related fractures. And this is very important data. If you see here, hospitalization. So all of you must be thinking that heart disease or maybe stroke or maybe cancer is the one basically having most number of hospitalization, but this is not the case. If you see, the most fractures in hospitals are due to osteoporotic related fractures. And this is huge. If you see, 43% of patients are admitted in hospitals due to osteoporotic related fractures and not due to your cardiac malfunctioning or your stroke or your breast cancer. I think, I'm sorry for that because some of the visibility is not that much clear, but that light sea green color is basically your breast cancer, the cancer which is most common among the women. So this is the fact according to International Osteoporotic Foundation. The data is as of 2022. So we have one fracture going to occur in 3 seconds, and 1 in 5 men's and 1 in 3 women's in this auditorium will be affected by this. So be ready for that. So huge economic burden, and if you see 130 USD just due to your fractures. So my lab is my lab in Department of Biotechnology, AIIMS New Delhi. So it is Translation Immunology, Osteoimmunology and Immunoporosis Lab, that is TIOL lab. So we basically coined this term immunoporosis. Recently in the last 4 years, 2018, we coined this term, we proposed this term, this concept, and we are taking it to greater heights now. If you can see here, immunoporosis is basically what we call is immunology of osteoporosis. Okay? So earlier, very few people, or maybe none of them, or maybe most of you must be unaware that osteoporosis is also having an immune component also involved. Because you will think that it is only loss of estrogen that is basically leading to osteoporosis or bone fractures, but this is not the case. Immune system has a strong presence in the pathophysiology of osteoporosis, and this led me to coin this term, that is immunoporosis. Both your adaptive immune system and an innate immune system are very much involved in an inflammatory bone loss in case of osteoporosis, and we have number of publications. We have already proved that, and the world has also come to know that immunoporosis is a field, because if you type immunoporosis on PubMed, you will find 10 publications with the name they have taken up after we coined this and proposed this. So this is already well accepted now. Apart from this, we are working on every aspect of bone biology. If you see here, osteomicrobiology, toxicology, infectious diseases, how they are affecting your bone health, and also we are into how we can basically develop certain nutraceuticals or therapeutics from the natural sources, or nutritionally, or certain other compounds which can basically inhibit osteoporosis, bone loss and osteoporosis. So we have already established this Treg and Th17 cell axis. This was the start how immune system was proven by us that they are having a very strong presence in case of osteoporotic inflammatory bone loss. So we all know that these Treg and Th17 cell balance is important in most of the inflammatory conditions or diseases. But if you see here, this is what happens in case of inflammation. The balance is gone, and that has basically led to a lot of inflammatory diseases. And this is true in case of osteoporosis also. And we have in the last 5 years made this again and again that this is a very important axis, and this can be taken and this must be taken care of if you really want to inhibit bone loss in case of your osteoporosis. So when we were discovering all these things, Treg and Th17, basically being an immunologist at heart and also well trained in bone biology, I thought it cannot be only T cells which are very much important for your regulating such an important inflammatory axis in osteoporosis. There could be other cells also which needs to be discovered, and we are having that burden or basically that responsibility to discover the role of each and every immune cell, because we started the field. So then what could have been the next cell in my mind, and that was basically came, it could be none other than your B cells, because T cells are adaptive cells and B cells are also another adaptive cells which are better hierarchy mein thoda upar hote hain, because they can regulate the differentiation of both your regulated T cells and Th17 cells. And these were discovered in 2002, and they were named as regulatory B cell in 2002, and after that subtype of Bregs were discovered in 2008, that is your beta Bregs. They specifically secrete IL-10 for most of their immunomodulatory functions. So we know that starting from allergy, asthma, your graft rejections, and your almost all of the autoimmune diseases, tumors and everything, regulatory B cells have a very strong proven role there. But in the case of osteoporosis, it is not known because nobody have ever thought about this, but basically osteoporosis could be also an immune-driven disease. So this was the question which we asked, and we started from there. So the first question is, do Bregs have any role in osteoporosis? For that, when we have to go to the in vitro cultures, first we have to generate Bregs, authentic Bregs. So what we did, we took splenocytes, we sorted the B cells, we stimulated them with LPS for 24 hours or 48 hours, and then we checked for the presence of IL-10 among these B cells, and we did found that this was highly significantly enhanced, and the IL-10 secretion was significantly enhanced in these B cells. Moving ahead, the next question was, do these Bregs have any osteoclastogenic, anti-osteoclastogenic activity? Because osteoclasts are the cells which are basically eating up your bone, responsible for your bone loss. And another cells, osteoblasts, are basically forming bones. So these two are the cells which are basically at the core of any preventive strategy for osteoclastogenesis or osteoporosis. So we checked, first of all, we checked whether these Bregs which we have generated in vitro, ex vivo, are having any anti-osteoclastogenic potential or not. So what we did, we co-cultured these Bregs generated and the bone marrow from your bone marrow monocytes, you can say from the mice, and we co-cultured them at different ratios, and we were really excited to. So if you can see the red color cells, these are your osteoclasts, and they have been stained with trap, that is an enzyme present in the osteoclast, and this is a very much strong and the only marker for your osteoclastogenesis or the osteoclast trap. These are multinucleated, and they can be more than 200 nuclei in a single cell. It's sensitial, they are multinucleated, they fuse, all the osteoclasts they fuse, and they are huge, and then they resorb the bone. So you can see here in the presence of this positive control, a lot of our trap osteocells cells are there, but the moment we are co-culturing them with in a ratio dependent manner with the Bregs, this is basically inhibited. And this was again confirmed with the F-acting ring, because F-acting ring is an important functional marker for these osteoclasts, because this is only due to the formation of this F-acting ring that they can absorb the bone efficiently. So this was a very eureka moment for us, because this was a contact dependent manner. Then we thought maybe it could also be in contact independent manner. For that we did the same experiment in trans well setup. And we did find that in the contact independent manner also it was inhibiting, the Bregs were inhibiting osteoclastogenesis. Then the next question was, since these Bregs are known to have their functions via either IL-10 or 35 or TGF-beta, these are only 3 molecules which are known to have, via which the Bregs can have their immunomodulatory effects. So first we checked for IL-10, because these were the main, the hit is 80% of the functions are due to IL-10. So for that, we did with an anti-IL-10 experiments, anti-IL-10 antibody experiments, and we did find that the moment we are adding anti-IL antibody, all these inhibitory effect is abrogated if you see with the respect to isotype. So this was again confirmed. Okay, IL-10 is a molecule which is basically having the anti-osteoclastogenic activity via these BREGs which are being formed. So our calculations say that one BREG can emit more than 30 osteoclasts. So that's a huge number, 30 times they are potent enough. So now again moving ahead, so what is the case in vivo? So we developed the post-menopausal osteoporotic mice model by removing both the ovaries, and we authenticated that with the help of your estrogen levels, and also did SEM and AFM, all those things, and also the gold standard is microCT. If you can see here, these are all the control and these are all the LP5 vertebrae, which is the gold standard, which has been needs to be assessed. You can see a lot number of trabecules or the bone deformities are there. Also in the femur trabeculae, tibia trabeculae, corticals also, both the femur and tibia. So this, after confirming this, after developing this model, we look what is happening to the status of these beaten BREGs in your osteoporotic mice and your control mice. And if you see here, we did both of these BREGs, the total B cells which are secreting IL-10. You can see in the atomic conditions that is significantly going down with respect to both in your bone marrow, which is the prime site of osteoclastogenesis and bone loss, and also your spleen where the induction of BREGs is basically taking place. So both of these places were having a significant reduction in your BREGs number. And the other B10 population, which is basically characterized by your CD19, CD5 positive, 1D high BREGs, they were also having a reduction in the population of these BREGs in both these populations. The next question was, so estrogen is basically, we are taking out the estrogen due to the removing the ovaries. This same effect is also possible when we are doing the in vitro ex vivo cultures, and we did find that when we are culturing these BREGs in the presence of estrogen, all this inhibitory effect is going down, and the BREGs are able to proliferate or differentiate in that manner. And this is very much, if you see, is correlated with these values and correlating with in vivo and ex vivo both conditions. So now, the next question is, because in case of rheumatoid arthritis, what happens that both the numbers of BREGs and both the functions of BREGs, they both are affected. So the numbers are already going down. The next task was whether the functions are also compromised or only the numbers are affected. So what we did was that we took both the sham and OVX mice, and we isolated the spleen, and we took a control mice, normal mice, and we did take the spleen and we co-cultured that. We isolated BREGs from here, both of these conditions, and co-cultured them with the osteoclasts from these normal mice, so that we can see whether BREGs from the osteoporotic mice and from the STAM mice is basically going to inhibit them. Now coming here, so BREGs are functionally compromised. If you see here, they are not able to inhibit the proliferation of T cells in case of your overatomic mice, 65%. And 53 is the normal control mice, control sham cells, they were able to inhibit them. And apart from this, the differentiation of the Tregs and TS17 cells were also compromised. Their BREGs immunomodulatory activity, the OVX BREGs were unable to induce induction of Tregs as was expected. In fact, they were basically enhancing TS17 cell population because they were unable to control your Treg cells. Now coming in, so there exists a BREG Treg TS17 cell axis in osteoporosis, and one BREG can inhibit 30 osteoclasts, and one Treg is already known to inhibit 100 osteoclasts from other studies and from our own also. So now the data is BREGs can induce Tregs threefold. So ultimately, one BREG can inhibit 330 osteoclasts if they are also affecting your Tregs. So that's a huge potential of these. So now the model is something like this. The BREGs are also there and helping the Tregs to combat the osteoclastogenic activity of the TS17 cells. Now moving ahead, so what is happening? So if so there exists a so this is an immunoporotic axis which we called it, that BREGs can basically regulate osteoclastogenesis, and all the known drugs, bisphosphonates, teriparatide, democenone, and bisphosphonate, they all are basically somehow they are affecting this immunoporotic axis, but we don't know them. So if we can tweak this axis, then basically we would be able to do an anti-osteoclastogenic effect or anti-osteoporotic medications can be formed. So how can we do? But because we are already having these drugs, but they have a lot of side effects. We can have a lot of side effects, including depression and heart attack also, and breast cancers also. So can probiotics be the game changer, because we are working on probiotics for the last 7 to 8 years. So now coming, so we took Bifidobacterium longum as a probiotic of our choice because of its it's very well studied. So what we did all these experiments again after treating these BREGs with BL, inducing these BREGs in the presence of BL. So what happened, if you see, if you are inducing this BREG, these have a strong anti-osteoclastogenic activity with respect to your only B-Rex. So B-Rex activin are not inhibiting osteoclasts that much great, but if we are treating these B-Rex with BL, the potential, the immunomodulating potential of these B-Rex is enhanced significantly. So again, these enhanced immunomodulating potential of B-Rex is also affected in case of your T-Rex and TS17 cells. If you see here, both your T-Rex and TS17 cells are strongly modulated by this B-Rex population, which have been primed with your bifidobacterium longum supernatrins of these cultures. So again, what we did, we again did the same experiments with a BL group, OVX plus BL, and we did find that BL was inhibiting osteoclastogenesis in case of osteoporotic mice model, and this is how this is effective. And this is how BL is modulating T-Rex and TS17 cell axis in mice via regulating your T-Rex and TS17, as we already know, and this was in a much higher significant manner if you are treating that with BL. So now, BL basically have enhanced B-Rex population also. They were enhancing, apart from T-Rex and TS17, they are also enhancing your T-Rex population, if you see, sorry, B-Rex population also here significantly. And this whole axis now become, apart from that, if you see, IL17 and IL10, basically IL10 secreted by both your B-Rex and T-Rex, and IL17 is being secreted by TS17 cells. These were also significantly modulated. So it's just the beginning, and we published this paper just 4 months back in Frontiers in Immunology. And also this, we got a best paper award for this for my PhD student Nina Sakra. She is sitting here, and this is one of the most prestigious awards given to the AIMS PhD students for their best papers published. So this is just 7 days only. So coming next, what is the active metabolite for these BL conditioned media? So what we did find was that BL was secreting ILA when we checked with the help of mass spec. The ILA, the indolactic acid concentrations were very much high in these culture supernatants. And we did all these experiments in vitro again with ILA. Interestingly, or heartbreaking, ILA was not inhibiting osteoclastogenesis in a dose-dependent manner. So what is the role and how they are affecting that? The question is, so they are not going through osteoclastogenesis, they don't have a very strong anti-osteoclastogenic activity, but they have a strong induction of B regulatory cells. And if you see here, they were able to induce significantly enhanced regulatory B cells population, and these B-Rex which have been primed with ILA are having a further enhanced anti-osteoclastogenic activity. If you see here, we're treating these B-Rex with ILA, they have very strong ILA, strong anti-osteoclastogenic activity. So ILA via B-Rex are basically affecting these conditions in case of your immunoprotic mice, and this again we did this, we put in the ILA and we did find that 4 times your B-Rex induction were there both in the bone marrow, the blood and the colon, and this is coming now. Also the gut integrity was enhanced after giving the ILA treatment because that is much lost in case of osteoporosis. We did a fixed dextran labeling method in the mice. So the take home message is, if you are giving your tryptophan rich diet, for example, in the case of eggs and other things and oats, and the BL will treat them and ILA will be formed, they will be enhancing your gut integrity and maintaining gut integrity. Apart from that, they will be also immunomodulating of B-Rex. B-Rex will then have a strong induction of T-Rex and inhibition of TS17 along with your inhibiting osteoclastogenesis also. So this is how this is basically. So now we again check that in case of your osteoporotic patients, and yes, the B-Rex populations are compromised in case of your humans also. From 6 it is coming to 2.28, and recently we got a clinical trial approved from ICMR for studying this axis in case of your osteoporosis, and we are going to start them. This is the contribution. We have already been featured on the cover page of Immunity 2019 in the 25th issue for a contribution as immunoporosis, the field which we want and other things. And we have been credited with immunoporosis apart from that immune axis, TS17, BX and TS17 cell axis, along with employing robotics and therapeutics for osteoporosis, in which we pioneered. And these are some of selected publications, and I thank all of my students. This is a very old photograph, and group is increasing. Many young PhD students have also joined in, and I thank all of my funding agencies. I have funding from almost all the agencies, IUSH, ICMR, DBT, DST, AIMS, CDC. So love your bones because they are going to protect your future. Nobody else is going to come, and all of you are going to be affected by this. So be ready for that. Thank you.
Any questions? No. So one quick question.
Yeah.
So if you incubate the B cells with LPS, they are going to develop into B-Rex, and these B cells are also able to produce antibodies.
So this BREX, the method of induction of BREX is a T cell independent method.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
use LPS.
So LPS, they used to produce antibodies, but those antibodies are not having a high affinity or avidity, and all those things are not as high as with respect if you're activating them with a T cell dependent manner. For example, anti-CD4TL and all those things.
That's obvious. The other question is, what is the phenotype of these BREX cells?
So these BREX are CD19 positive, CD5 positive, CD1D high, and IL10 positive. So these are called as G10 BREX specifically, if you activate them with LPS.
IL10 appears to play a major role in this.
IL10?
IL10 appears to play a major role in this.
Yeah.
So what happens if you have an IL10 knockout mice?
So if you have an IL10 knockout mice, you will see, because people have already done that in IL10 knockout mice, there is increased exhibition of these bone loss in those cases. In case of rheumatoid arthritis, people have done that, because nobody have ever thought of osteoporosis and immune mediated disease, so nobody has done this. But in case of RA, people have done that, and they did find that there was increased bone loss in case of your IL10 knockout.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I now request Professor Vinod Kumar to felicitate Dr. Rupesh Shrivastava for his outstanding talk.